Salem, Massachusetts. Salem is a historic coastal city in Essex County, Massachusetts, located in the North Shore region. It is a New England bedrock of history and is considered one of the most significant seaports in Puritan American history. The city is home to the House of Seven Gables, Salem State University, the headquarters of the Satanic Temple, Salem Willows, Pioneer Village, Salem Maritime National Historic Site, and the Peabody Essex Museum. It also features historic residential neighborhoods in the Federal Street District and the Charter Street Historic District. Salem is a residential and tourist area which includes the neighborhoods of Salem Neck, Downtown Salem District, The Point, South Salem, North Salem, Blubber Hollow, Witchcraft Heights, and the Mcintyre Historic District named after Salem's famous architect Samuel Mcintyre. Much of the city's cultural identity reflects its role as the location of the infamous Salem witch trials of 1692, as featured in Arthur Miller's The Crucible. Police cars are adorned with witch logos, a public elementary school is known as Witchcraft Heights, and the Salem High School athletic teams are named the Witches. Gallows Hill was originally believed to be the site of numerous public hangings, and it is currently used as a playing field for various sports. In 2012, the Retailers Association of Massachusetts chose Salem for their inaugural Best Shopping District Award. On January 10, 2013, President Obama signed Executive Order H.R. 1339 designating Salem as the birthplace of the U.S. National Guard. The city's population was 41,340 at the 2010 census. Salem is located at the mouth of the Nomkag River at the site of an Indian village and trading center. European colonists first settled it in 1626, when a company of fishermen arrived from Cape Ann led by Roger Conant. Conant's leadership provided the stability to survive the first 2 years, but John Nugget replaced him by order of the Massachusetts Bay Company. Conant graciously stepped aside and was granted 200 acres of land in compensation. These new planters and the old planters agreed to cooperate, in large part due to the diplomacy of Conant and Nugget. In recognition of this peaceful transition to the new government, the name of the settlement was changed to Salem, a Hellenized form of the Hebrew word for peace. In 1628, Nugget ordered that the Great House be moved from Cape Ann, reassembling it on Washington Street north of Church Street. Francis Higginson wrote that we found a fair house newly built for the governor which was remarkable for being 2 stories high. A year later, the Massachusetts Bay Charter was issued creating the Massachusetts Bay Colony with Matthew Craddock as its governor in London and Nugget as its governor in the colony. John Winthrop was elected governor in late 1629, and arrived with the Winthrop fleet in 1630, one of the many events that began the Puritan Great Migration. In 1639, Nugget was one of the signers on the building contract for enlarging the Meeting House in Townhouse Square for the first church in Salem. This document remains part of the town records at City Hall. He was active in the affairs of the town throughout his life. Samuel Skelton was the first pastor of the First Church of Salem, which is the original Puritan church in America. Nugget already had a close relationship with Skelton, having been converted by him, and Nugget considered him as his spiritual father. One of the most widely known aspects of Salem is its history of witchcraft allegations, which started with Abigail Williams, Betty Paris, and their friends playing with a Venus glass and egg. The Salem witchcraft trials began in 1692, and 20 people were executed as a result of the accusations of witchcraft. Salem is also significant in legal history as the site of the Dorothy Talby trial, where a mentally ill woman was hanged for murdering her daughter because Massachusetts made no distinction at the time between insanity and criminal behavior. William Hawthorne was a prosperous businessman in early Salem and became one of its leading citizens of the early colonial period. He led troops to victory in King Philip's War, served as a magistrate on the highest court, and was chosen as the first Speaker of the House of Deputies. He was a zealous advocate of the personal rights of freemen against royal emissaries and agents. His son Judge John Hawthorne came to prominence in the late 17th century when witchcraft was a serious felony. Judge Hawthorne is the best known of the witch trial judges, and he became known as the hanging judge for sentencing witches to death. On February 26, 1775, Patriots raised the drawbridge at the North River, preventing British Colonel Alexander Leslie and his 300 troops of the 64th Regiment of Foot from seizing stores and ammunition hidden in North Salem. A few months later, in May 1775, a group of prominent merchants with ties to Salem, including Francis Cabot, William Pynchon, Thomas Barnard, E. A. Holyoke and William Pickman, felt the need to publish a statement retracting what some interpreted as loyalist leanings and to profess their dedication to the colonial cause. During the American Revolution, the town became a center for privateering. Although the documentation is incomplete, about 1,700 letters of marque, issued on a per-voyage basis, were granted during Revolution. Nearly 800 vessels were commissioned as privateers, and are credited with capturing or destroying about 600 British ships. During the War of 1812, privateering resumed. Following the American Revolution, many ships used as privateers were too large for short voyages in the coasting trade, and their owners determined to open new avenues of trade to distant countries. The young men of the town, fresh from service on the armed ships of Salem, were eager to embark in such ventures. Captain Nathaniel Silsby, his first mate Charles Derby, and second mate Richard J. Cleveland were not yet 20 years old when they set sail on a 19-month voyage that was perhaps the first from the newly independent America to the East Indies. In 1795, Captain Jonathan Carnes set sail for Sumatra in the Malay archipelago on his secret voyage for pepper. Nothing was heard from him until 18 months later, when he entered with a cargo of pepper in bulk, the first to be so imported into the country, and which sold at the extraordinary profit of 700%. The Empress of China, formerly a privateer, was refitted as the first American ship to sail from New York to China. By 1790, Salem had become the sixth largest city in the country, and a world-famous seaport, particularly in the China trade, along with exporting codfish to Europe and the West Indies, importing sugar and molasses from the West Indies, tea from China, and products depicted on the city seal from the East Indies, in particular Sumatran pepper. Salem ships also visited Africa, Zanzibar in particular, Russia, Japan, and Australia. The neutrality of the United States was tested during the Napoleonic Wars. After the Chesapeake Leopard affair, President Thomas Jefferson was faced with a decision to make regarding the situation at hand. In the end, he chose an economic option, the Embargo Act of 1807. Jefferson essentially closed all the ports overnight, putting a damper on the seaport town of Salem. The Embargo of 1807 was the starting point on the path to the War of 1812 with Great Britain. Both Great Britain and France imposed trade restrictions in order to weaken each other's economies. This also had the effect of disrupting American trade and testing the United States' neutrality. As time went on, harassment of American ships by the British Navy increased. This included impressment and seizures of American men and goods. The Salem India story by Vanita Shastri narrates the adventures of the Salem seamen who connected the far corners of the globe through trade. This period marks the beginning of U.S. international relations, long before the 21st century wave of globalization. It reveals the global trade connections that Salem had established with faraway lands, which were a source of livelihood and prosperity for many. Charles Endicott, master of Salem merchantman Friendship, returned in 1831 to report Sumatran natives had plundered his ship, murdering the first officer and 2 crewmen. Following public outcry, President Andrew Jackson ordered the Potomac on the first Sumatran expedition, which departed New York City on August 19, 1831. This also led to the mission of diplomatist Edmund Roberts, who negotiated a treaty with Said bin Sultan, Sultan of Muscat and Oman on September 21, 1833. In 1837, the Sultan moved his main place of residence to Zanzibar and welcomed Salem citizen Richard Waters as a United States consul of the early years. The old China trade left a significant mark in 2 historic districts, Chestnut Street District, part of the Samuel McIntyre Historic District containing 407 buildings, and the Salem Maritime National Historic Site, consisting of 12 historic structures and about 9 acres of land along the waterfront in Salem. Elias Haskett Derby was among the wealthiest and most celebrated of post-revolutionary merchants in Salem. Derby was also the owner of the Grand Turk, the first New England vessel to trade directly with China and second to sail from the United States after the Empress of China. Thomas H. Perkins was his supercargo and established strong ties with the Chinese and garnered the Forbes fortune through his illegal opium sales. Salem was incorporated as a city on March 23, 1836, and adopted a city seal in 1839 with the motto Dividas in die usque ad ultimum sinem, Latin for to the rich East Indies until the last lap. Nathaniel Hawthorne was overseer of Salem's port from 1846 until 1849. He worked in the U.S. Customs House across the street from the port near Pickering Wharf, his setting for the beginning of the Scarlet Letter. In 1858, an amusement park was established at Juniper Point, a peninsula jutting into the harbor. Prosperity left the city with a wealth of fine architecture, including federal-style mansions designed by one of America's first architects, Samuel Mcintyre, for whom the city's largest historic district is named. These homes and mansions now comprise the greatest concentrations of notable pre-1900 domestic structures in the United States. Shipping declined throughout the 19th century. Salem and its silting harbor were increasingly eclipsed by nearby Boston and New York City. Consequently, the city turned to manufacturing. Industries included tanneries, shoe factories, and the Naumkeag Steam Cotton Company. More than 400 homes were destroyed in the Great Salem Fire of 1914, leaving 3,500 families homeless from a blaze that began in the corn leather factory at 57 Boston Street. The historic concentration of federal architecture on Chestnut Street were spared from destruction by fire, in which they still exist to this day. A memorial plaque currently exists where the corn leather factory once stood, on what is now a Walgreens store. Coast Guard Air Station Salem was established on February 15, 1935 when the U.S. Coast Guard established a new seaplane facility in Salem because there was no space to expand the Gloucester Air Station at 10 Pound Island. Coast Guard Air Station Salem was located on Winter Island, an extension of Salem Neck which juts out into Salem Harbor. Search and rescue, hunting for derelicts, and medical evacuations were the station's primary areas of responsibility. During its first year of operation, Salem crews performed 26 medical evacuations. They flew in all kinds of weather, and the radio direction capabilities of the aircraft were of significant value in locating vessels in distress. During World War II, air crews from Salem flew neutrality patrols along the coast, and the air station roster grew to 37 aircraft. Anti-submarine patrols were flown on a regular basis. In October 1944, Air Station Salem was officially designated as the first air-sea rescue station on the eastern seaboard. The Martin PBM Mariner, a holdover from the war, became the primary rescue aircraft. In the mid-1950s, helicopters came, as did Grumman HU-16 Albatross amphibious flying boats. The air station's missions included search and rescue, law enforcement, counting migratory waterfowl for the U.S. Biological Survey, and assisting icebound islands by delivering provisions. The station's surviving facilities are part of Salem's Winter Island Marine Park. Salem Harbor was deep enough to host a seatrome with 3 sea lanes, offering a variety of takeoff headings irrespective of wind direction unless there was a strong steady wind from the east. This produced large waves that swept into the mouth of the harbor, making water operations difficult. When the seadrome was too rough, returning amphibian aircraft would use Naval Auxiliary Air Facility Beverly. Salem Air Station moved to Cape Cod in 1970. In 2011, the city of Salem finalized plans for the 30-acre Winter Island Park and squared off against residents who are against bringing 2 power-generating windmills to the tip of Winter Island. The Renewable Energy Task Force, along with Energy and Sustainability Manager, Paul Marquis, have recommended the construction of a 1.5-megawatt power turbine at the tip of Winter Island, which is the furthest point from residences and where the winds are the strongest. The nearly 30-acre park has been open to the public since the early 1970s. In 2011, a master plan was developed with help from the planning and design firm, Cecil Group of Boston and Bioengineering Group of Salem. The city of Salem paid $45,000 in federal money. In the long term, the projected cost to rehabilitate just the barracks was $1.5 million. But in the short term, there are multiple lower-cost items, like a proposed $15,000 kayak dock or $50,000 to relocate and improve the bathhouse. This is a very important project since Fort Pickering guarded Salem Harbor as far back as the 17th century. In 1637, the first muster was held on Salem Common, where for the first time a regiment of militia drilled for the common defense of a multi-community area, thus laying the foundation for what became the Army National Guard. In 1637, the General Court of the Massachusetts Bay Colony ordered the organization of the colony's militia companies into the North, South, and East regiments. The colonists adopted the English militia system, which obligated all males between the ages of 16 and 60 to possess arms and participate in the defense of the community. On August 19, 2010, Governor of Massachusetts Deval Patrick signed HB 1145, an act designating the city of Salem as the birthplace of the National Guard. This was later approved by the U.S. House of Representatives in March 2012, and was signed into law by President Barack Obama on January 10, 2013. This executive order designated the city of Salem, Massachusetts, as the birthplace of the U.S. National Guard. Each April, the Second Corps of Cadets gather in front of St. Peter's Episcopal Church, where the body of their founder, Stephen Abbott, is buried. They lay a wreath, play taps and fire a 21-gun salute. In another annual commemoration, soldiers gather at Old Salem Armory to honor soldiers who were killed in the battles of Lexington and Concord. On April 14, 2012, Salem celebrated the 375th anniversary of the first muster on Salem Common, with more than 1,000 troops taking part in ceremonies and a parade. In 2011, a mahogany side chair with carving done by Samuel Mcintyre sold at auction for $662,500. The price set a world record for federal furniture. Mcintyre was one of the first architects in the United States, and his work represents a prime example of early federal-style architecture. Elias Haskett Derby, Salem's wealthiest merchant and thought to be America's first millionaire, and his wife, Elizabeth Crowninshield, purchased the set of 8 chairs from Mcintyre. The Samuel Mcintyre Historic District is one of the largest concentrations of 17th and 18th century domestic structures in America. It includes Mcintyre commissions such as the Peirce-Nichols House and Hamilton Hall. The Witch House or Jonathan Corwin House is also located in the district. Samuel Mcintyre's house and workshop were located at 31 Summer Street in what is now the Samuel Mcintyre Historic District. One of many sealed tunnel entrances in Salem. Salem Depot, 1910. Peabody House, circa 1905. Salem Harbor in 1907. Lafayette Street in 1910. Naumkeag Mills, circa 1910. Roger Williams House circa 1910. Sampler made in Salem in 1791. Art Institute of Chicago Textile Collection. Pickering House, circa 1905. Essex Street, circa 1920. Townhouse Square, 1891. Salem is located at 42 degrees 31' and 70 degrees 53-55 W, 42.51694 degrees north 70.89861 degrees W, 42.51694, minus 70.89861. According to the United States Census Bureau, the city has a total area of 18.1 square miles, of which 8.1 square miles is land and 9.9 square miles, or 55.09%, is water. Salem lies on Massachusetts Bay between Salem Harbor, which divides the city from much of neighboring Marblehead to the southeast, and Beverly Harbor, which divides the city from Beverly along with the Danvers River, which feeds into the harbor. Between the two harbors lies Salem Neck and Winter Island, which are divided from each other by Cat Cove, Smith Pool, and Juniper Cove. The city is further divided by Collins Cove and the inlet to the North River. The Forest River flows through the south end of town, along with Strongwater Brook, which feeds Spring Pond at the town's southwest corner. The town has several parks, as well as conservation land along the Forest River and Camp Lyon, which lies east of Spring Pond. The city is divided by its natural features into several small neighborhoods. The Salem Neck neighborhood lies northeast of downtown, and North Salem lies to the west of it, on the other side of the North River. South Salem is south of the South River, lying mostly along the banks of Salem Harbor southward. Downtown Salem lies 15 miles northeast of Boston, 16 miles southwest of Gloucester and Cape Ann, and 19 miles southeast of Lawrence, the other county seat of Essex County. Salem is bordered by Beverly to the north, Danvers to the northwest, Peabody to the west, Lynn to the south, Swampscott to the southeast, and Marblehead to the southeast. The town's water rights extend along a channel into Massachusetts Bay between the water rights of Marblehead and Beverly. The connection between Salem and Beverly is made across the Danvers River and Beverly Harbor by 3 bridges, the Cronwood Bridge to the west, and a railroad bridge and the Essex Bridge, from the land between Collins Cove and the North River, to the east. The Veterans Memorial Bridge carries Massachusetts Route 1A across the river. Route 1A passes through the eastern side of the city, through South Salem towards Swampscott. For much of its length in the city, it is coextensive with Route 114, which goes north from Marblehead before merging with Route 1A, and then heading northwest from downtown towards Lawrence. Route 107 also passes through town, entering from Lynn in the southwest corner of the city before heading towards its intersection with Route 114 and terminating at Route 1A. There is no highway access within the city. The nearest highway access to Route 128 is along Route 114 in neighboring Peabody. Salem has a station on the Newburyport/Rockport line of the MBTA commuter rail. The railroad lines are also connected to a semi-abandoned portion of freight lines which lead into Peabody, and a former line into Marblehead has been converted into a bike path. Several MBTA bus routes pass through the city. The nearest small airport is Beverly Municipal Airport, and the nearest national and international service can be reached at Boston's Logan International Airport. The Nathaniel Bowditch is a 92-foot high-speed catamaran that travels from Salem to Boston in 50 minutes from May to October and had its maiden voyage on June 22, 2006. The Salem Ferry is named after Nathaniel Bowditch, who is from Salem and wrote the American Practical Navigator. Ridership increased every year from 2006 to 2010, when it peaked with 89,000, but in 2011 service was cut back because of the dramatic rise in fuel prices. The Salem Ferry is docked at LTHE Derby Waterfront District. The ferry was purchased by the City of Salem with the use of grant money that covered 90% of the $2.1 million purchase price. Because of the cutback in service during the 2011 season, Mayor Kim Driscoll is now seeking a new operator who can run the ferry 7 days a week from May to October. For the 2012 season, Boston Harbor Cruises will be taking over the running of the Salem Ferry with 7-day service and a Monday to Friday 7 a.m. commuter ferry to Boston. The Salem Ferry will be running 7 days a week for the 2012 season starting the first weekend in June and going through to Halloween. Boston Harbor Cruises, the contractor that operates the city's commuter ferry to Boston, runs their largest and fastest vessel between Salem and Hingham for the last 2 weekends in October. The company's high-speed ferry service to Provincetown concludes in October, freeing up its 600-passenger boat for service between Salem and Hingham. The ferry ride between Hingham and Salem takes 1 hour. With traffic, especially around Halloween, the drive between Salem and Hingham could be 3 hours or more. For the 2013 season, service is expected to start in the last week of May. The Salem City Councilors approved a 5-year contract with Boston Harbor Cruises to operate the city's commuter ferry from 2013 to 2017. Also new for the 2013 season, Boston Harbor Cruises will offer a 20% discount to Salem residents for non-commuter tickets. The City of Salem has approved a seasonal restaurant with a liquor license at the Salem Ferry dock to be operated by Boston Harbor Cruises. The plan is to build a 600-square-foot building plus patio seating. The latest data from 2015 point to 61,000 riders, with around 11,000 being commuters, according to Boston Harbor Cruises, which runs the Salem Ferry. In Salem, there is a program called Salem Spins, that offers bicycles, free of charge, for use around the city. The program started in 2011 with a fleet of 20 bicycles and is split between 2 hubs, at Salem State University and downtown, near the Hawthorne Hotel. In 2011, Salem was awarded $25,000 from the Green Communities Grant Program, which went toward the purchase of the bike fleet. Fees are charged to a participant's credit card only if they return the bike late or damaged. Right now, Salem Spins is open only to people over the age of 18. But the city is considering changing that, Marquis said, as well as producing a bike map for participants and offering a seasonal pass where bikes could be used for more than 1 day at a time. Salem has 8 stations where drivers can charge their electric cars. 4 are located at the Museum Place Mall near the Peabody Essex Museum and the other 4 are in the South Harbor Garage across the street from the Salem Waterfront Hotel. The program started in January 2013 and will be free of charge for 2 years, allowing people to charge their electric cars and other electric vehicles for up to 6 hours. This program was paid for by a grant from the state of Massachusetts due to Salem's status as a Massachusetts green community. North Shore Medical Center is located in Salem and is the second largest community hospital system in Massachusetts. It offers comprehensive medical and surgical services and includes emergency/trauma departments, advanced cardiac surgery, and a birthplace. It includes NSMC Salem Hospital and NSMC Union Hospital, as well as outpatient care and urgent care. NSMC's medical staff includes nearly 600 affiliated physicians representing primary care, family practice and 50 additional subspecialties. The Salem NSMC is a general medical and surgical hospital, which has 395 beds. The hospital had 19,467 admissions in the latest year for which data are available. It performed 4,409 annual inpatient and 7,955 outpatient surgeries. Its emergency department had 90,149 visits in 2012. The helipad at North Shore Medical Center is a helicopter transportation hub, with multiple daily flights to hospitals all over Boston. Captain John Bertram lived in Salem and is the founder of Salem Hospital, which was later renamed North Shore Medical Center. In 1873, Captain John Bertram gave a gift of $25,000 in cash, plus a brick mansion on Charter Street to create Salem Hospital. From the original building on Charter Street, Salem Hospital moved to the current location on Highland Avenue in 1917. After John Bertram died in March 1882, his widow donated their home, a mansion built in the high-style Italianate with brick and brownstone for materials at 370 Essex Street, and this became the Salem Public Library. In addition, the John Bertram House is now a home for the elderly. The first step in the redevelopment was in 2006, when the state of Massachusetts gave Salem $1 million. The bulk of the money, $750,000, was earmarked for acquisition of the Blaney Street Landing, the private, 2-acre site off Derby Street used by the ferry, and Salem Harbor. Another $200,000 was approved for the design of the new Salem Wharf, a large pier planned for the landing, which officials said could be used by small cruise ships, commercial vessels and fishing boats. In June 2012, the $1.75 million was awarded by the state of Massachusetts and will launch a first phase of dredging and construction of a 100-foot extension of the pier, a harbor walk to improve pedestrian access, and other lighting, landscaping and paving improvements. Dredging will allow the city to attract other ferries, excursion vessels and cruise ships of up to 250 feet. In October 2010, Mayor Driscoll announced that the city would formally acquire the Blaney Street parcel from Dominion Energy, paving the way for the Salem Wharf project. The City of Salem secured $1.25 million from the Massachusetts Seaport Advisory Council and $2.5 million in federal grant dollars to move forward with the construction of the project. The city acquired the parcel with the help of a $1.7 million grant received from the Seaport Advisory Council. The City of Salem's plans call for a total build-out of the current Blaney Street Pier, known as the Salem Wharf project. When finished, the Blaney Street Pier will be home to small to medium-sized cruise ships, commercial vessels and the Salem Ferry. This project is fully engineered and permitted. In 2010, in early phase work to be finished for the 2011 season, a contractor was running underground utility cables and erecting an interim terminal building that will be used by the Salem Ferry, replacing the current trailer. The building will have an indoor bathroom, a first at the ferry landing, along with a waiting room and possibly an outdoor area with awnings. Also new for 2011 is a paved lot with about 140 parking spaces replacing the existing dirt parking lot. Also in 2011, construction crews were building a long seawall at the Blaney Street Landing, which runs from the edge of the ferry dock back toward Derby Street and along an inner harbor. This is one of the early and key pieces of the Salem Pier, which the city hopes to have completed by 2014 and is the key to eventually bring cruise ships to Salem. At the end of the 2011 season of the Salem Ferry, in the late fall of 2011, after the ferry season ended, contractors were to start building the first section of the T-shaped, 350-foot pier. Work on that phase was scheduled to be completed by the fall of 2012. As of April 2011, the City of Salem had secured half of the $20 million and still needed to secure about $10 million in state and federal funds to complete this waterfront pier. In May 2011, after years of legal battles, protests, and one recent fatal accident, the owner of the Salem Harbor Power Station announced it will close down the facility permanently. Salem Harbor Station was a 60-year-old power plant that was owned by Dominion of Virginia. With the approval of ISO New England, the 60-year-old coal and oil-fired plant closed for good in June 2014. The City of Salem was awarded a $200,000 grant from the Clean Energy Center prior to the closure of the plant. This grant money is being used to plan for the eventual reuse of the property. The City of Salem reached out to state and federal officials to ask for their cooperation and assistance in planning for the future and to provide money, in an effort to clean up the 62-acre site. Footprint Power, a startup New Jersey-based energy company, announced on June 29, 2012, that it had signed an agreement to acquire Salem Harbor Station from Dominion Energy of Virginia. Footprint Power planned to demolish the 63-acre waterfront site that has towering smokestacks, a coal pile, and oil tanks. A city study estimated cleanup costs at more than $50 million. The final plan was to develop a new state-of-the-art natural gas plant on one-third of the original site, reportedly along the Fort Avenue side near the city's ferry landing. The remainder of the waterfront property eventually will be used for commercial and industrial redevelopment, the company said. The transition will not only stabilize our property tax base, but also provide cleaner, more efficient and reliable energy. Footprint said its plans are consistent with the recommendations of a city study completed earlier that year on the future use of the power plant site. The city of Salem required Footprint to demolish the existing plant and stacks. We will restore some 30 to 40 acres of our waterfront to its vibrant and prosperous past. Mayor Kim Driscoll said she had not detailed talks yet with Footprint, but is encouraged by discussions so far. Beginning in December 2013, there were many appeals underway from various groups who did not want the plant rebuilt. The main opponent that fought in court was the Conservation Law Foundation, a leading environmental advocacy group intent on blocking the plant from being built. As of the census of 2010, there were 41,340 people, 19,130 households, and 9,708 families residing in the city. The population density was 4,986.0 people per square mile. There were 18,175 housing units at an average density of 2,242.7 per square mile. The racial makeup of the city was 81.5% white, 4.9% African American, 0.22% Native American, 2.6% Asian, 0.05% Pacific Islander, 6.74% from other races, and 2.47% from two or more races. Hispanic or Latino of any race were 15.6% of the population. Non-Hispanic whites were 75.9% of the population in 2010, compared to 95.9% in 1980. There were 17,492 households, out of which 24.2% had children under the age of 18 living with them, 38.8% were married couples living together, 13.3% had a female householder with no husband present, and 44.5% were non-families. 34.9% of all households were made up of individuals and 11.5% had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 2.24 and the average family size was 2.95. In the city, the population was spread out with 20.2% under the age of 18, 10.4% from 18 to 24, 33.4% from 25 to 44, 21.9% from 45 to 64, and 14.1% who were 65 years of age or older. The median age was 36 years. For every 100 females, there were 86.5 males. For every 100 females age 18 and over, there were 83.5 males. The median income for a household in the city was $44,033, and the median income for a family was $55,635. Males had a median income of $38,563 versus $31,374 for females. The per capita income for the city was $23,857. About 6.3% of families and 9.7% of the population were below the poverty line, including 12.2% of those under age 18 and 7.9% of those age 65 or over. Salem State University is the largest of the 9 schools comprising the state university system in Massachusetts, with 7,500 undergraduates and 2,500 graduate students. Its 5 campuses encompass 115 acres and include 33 buildings. The Salem State Foundation hosts an annual lecture series, featuring high-profile speakers from around the world. Was originally built in the 1950s, and in January 2014 a $18,600,000 project was announced with development. The university was founded in 1854 as the Salem Normal School based on the educational principles espoused by Horace Mann, considered to be the father of American public education. Salem State University enrolls over 10,000 undergraduate and graduate students representing 27 states and 57 foreign countries, and is one of the largest state universities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The university also offers continuing education courses for credit or non-credit. Situated on 5 campuses totaling 115 acres. Currently, The university houses 2,000 students in its 5 residence facilities. In 2013, the $74 million, 122,000 square foot library is going to open on the Salem State University campus. The new library will have more than 150 public computers and 1,000 seats of study space, from tables and desks to lounge chairs scattered throughout the building. On July 28, 2010, Governor of Massachusetts Deval Patrick signed into law a bill that transforms Salem State College into Salem State University. Salem State University plans to build a $36 to $42 million dorm for 350 to 400 students. Construction starts in the spring of 2014. In April 2014, Salem State University announced a $25 million fund, and at the time of the announcement, there was already $15 million committed from donations, and the money will be used for a variety of things from expanding international study programs, more faculty, brand new computers, scholarships, and continued support of professional development for the staff. Public elementary schools include the Bates, Carlton, Horace Mann, Nathaniel Bowditch, Saltonstall, and Witchcraft Heights schools. Collins Middle School is located on Highland Avenue. Nathaniel Bowditch School and Salem High School are located on Wilson Street. Salem Academy Charter School and Bentley Academy Charter School are also public schools. The Bowditch School has grades K-8. Private schools are also located in the city, including 2 independent, alternative schools, the Phoenix School and the Greenhouse School. In late 2007 and early 2008, the city's public school system garnered regional and even national attention after officials announced a $4.7 million budget shortfall that threatened the jobs of teachers and other staff members. The Massachusetts General Court passed legislation, and residents raised enough money that averted teacher layoffs. Several dozen support workers were still laid off. Police were investigating what happened to the money in a search for criminal violations of the law. Salem also once had a very strong Roman Catholic school system. Once home to almost a dozen schools, the last school in the city, St. Joseph's School, closed in July 2009 after over 100 years of providing Catholic education. St. James High School, St. Chrétien Academy, St. Chrétien Grammar School and St. Mary's School closed in 1971, St. James Grammar School closed in 1972, St. Thomas the Apostle School closed in 1973, St. Anne School closed in 1976, St. John the Baptist School closed in 1977 and St. Joseph High School closed in 1980. See also, Chestnut Street District and Salem Maritime National Historic Site. The Pickman House, built circa 1664, abuts the Witch Memorial and Burying Point Cemetery, the second oldest burying ground in the United States. The Gagne House is a historic house museum built circa 1665 and is the second oldest house in Salem. One of the most popular houses in Salem is the Witch House, the only structure in Salem with direct ties to the Salem witch trials of 1692. The Witch House is owned and operated by the City of Salem as a historic house museum. Hamilton Hall is located on Chestnut Street, where many grand mansions can be traced to the roots of the old China trade. Hamilton Hall was built in 1805 by Samuel Mcintyre and is considered one of his best pieces. It was declared a National Historic Landmark by the National Park Service in 1970. In recent years, tourism has been an occasional source of debate in the city, with some residents arguing the city should downplay witch tourism and market itself as a more upscale cultural center. In 2005, the conflict came to a head over plans by the cable television network TV Land to erect a bronze statue of Elizabeth Montgomery, who played the comic witch Samantha in the 1960s series Bewitched. A few special episodes of the series were actually filmed in Salem, and TV Land said that the statue commemorated the 35th anniversary of those episodes. The statue was sculpted by Studio Ice under the direction of brothers Elliot and Ivan Schwartz. Many felt the statue was good fun and appropriate to a city that promotes itself as the Witch City, and contains a street named Witch Way. Others objected to the use of public property for what was transparently commercial promotion. There is also a memorial to the victims of the infamous witch trials at Proctor's Ledge, the execution site from that time. The memorial is meant to be a place of reflection for the city, a reminder that we are capable of these things. This according to Shay, Andrea. Salem, Massachusetts, dedicates memorial to witches who died on the gallows. National Public Radio, MW Parser Output Site. Citation font style inherit. MW parser output. Citation Q quotes. .mw parser output. Citation. CS1 lock free a background URL no repeat, background position right. 1M center. MW parser output. Citation. CS1 lock limited a comma .mw parser output. Citation. CS1 lock registration a background URL no repeat, background position right. 1M center. MW parser output. Citation. CS1 lock subscription a background URL no repeat, background position right. 1M center. MW parser output. CS1 subscription comma .mw parser output. CS1 registration color, number 555. MW parser output. CS1 subscription span comma .mw parser output. CS1 registration span border bottom :1 px dotted, cursor help. MW parser output. CS1 WS icon a background URL no repeat, background position right. 1M center. MW parser output code .cs1 code color inherit, background inherit, border inherit, padding inherit. MW parser output. CS1 hidden error display none, font size, 100%. MW parser output. CS1 visible error font size, 100%. MW parser output. CS1 main display none, color, #33AW33, margin left :0.3M. MW parser output. CS1 subscription .mw parser output. CS1 registration .mw parser output. CS1 format font size, 95%. MW parser output. CS1 kern left .mw parser output. CS1 kern WL left padding left :0.2M. MW parser output. CS1 kern right .mw parser output. CS1 kern WL right padding right :0.2M. In 2000, the replica tall ship Friendship of Salem was finished and sailed to Salem Harbor, where she sits today. The Friendship of Salem is a reconstruction of a 171-foot 3-masted East Indiaman trading ship, originally built in 1797, which traveled the world over a dozen times and returned to Salem after each voyage with goods from all over the world. The original was taken by the British during the War of 1812, then stripped and sold in pieces. In 2006, with the assistance of a $1.6 million grant and additional funds provided by the City of Salem, Mayor Driscoll launched the Nathaniel Bowditch, a 92-foot catamaran with a top speed of 30 knots, which makes the trip between Salem and Boston in just under an hour. The original Fame was a fast tobacco fishing schooner that was reborn as a privateer when war broke out in the summer of 1812. She was arguably the first American privateer to bring home a prize, and she made 20 more captures before being wrecked in the Bay of Fundy in 1814. The new Fame is a full-scale replica of this famous schooner. Framed and planked of white oak and trunnel fastened in the traditional manner, the replica of Fame was launched in 2003. She is now based at Salem's Pickering Wharf Marina, where she takes the paying public for cruises on Salem Sound. Salem Harbor Walk opened in July 2010 to celebrate the rebirth of the Salem waterfront as a source of recreation for visitors as well as the local community. The 1,100-foot walkway extends from the area of the Salem Fire Station to the Salem Waterfront Hotel. The Peabody Essex Museum is a leading museum of Asian art and culture and early American maritime trade and whaling. Its collections of Indian, Japanese, Korean, and Chinese art, and in particular Chinese export porcelain, are among the finest in the country. Founded in 1799, it is the oldest continuously operating museum in the United States. The museum owns and exhibits a number of historic houses in downtown Salem. In 2003, it completed a massive $100 million renovation and expansion, designed by architect Moshe Safdie, and moved a 200-year-old 16-room Chinese home from Shuning County in southeastern China to the grounds of the museum. In 2011, the Peabody Essex Museum announced it had raised $550 million with plans to raise an additional $100 million by 2016. The Boston Globe reported this was the largest capital campaign in the museum's history, vaulting the Peabody Essex into the top tier of major art museums. The Peabody Essex Museum trustees co-chairs Sam Byrne and Sean Healy with board president Robert Shapiro led the campaign. $200 to $250 million will fund the museum's 175,000 square foot expansion, bringing the total square footage to 425,000 square feet. The Misery Islands is a nature reserve located in Salem Sound that was established in 1935. It is managed by the trustees of reservations. The island's name comes from shipbuilder Robert Moulton, who was stranded on the islands during a winter storm in the 1620s. The islands, in the past, have been home to a club with a golf course and about 24 cottages. The islands are now uninhabited. The Misery Islands, which are a nature reserve, were established in 1935 and located in Salem Sound and are managed by the trustees of reservations. The Pioneer Village, created in 1930, was America's first living history museum. The site features a 3-acre recreation of a Puritan village and allows visitors the opportunity to participate in activities from the lives of Salem's earliest English settlers. The Old Salem Jail, an active correctional facility until 1991, once housed captured British soldiers from the War of 1812. It contains the main jail building, the jail keeper's house, and a barn. The jail was shuttered in 1991 when Essex County opened its new facility in Middleton. In 2010, a $12 million renovation was completed. One feature of the reconstruction is the jail keeper's house, a 3-story brick, Federal period building originally built in 1813. The project went into a long phase of stagnation when in 1999 the county government was dissolved, resulting in the sale of Salem Jail by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to the city of Salem for $1. The old Salem Jail complex was renamed 50 St. Peter Street and is now private property, with private residences. Salem Willows is an oceanfront neighborhood and amusement park. It is named for the European white willow trees planted there in 1801 to form a shaded walk for patients convalescing at a nearby smallpox hospital. The area became a public park in 1858, and in the 20th century became a summer destination for residents of Boston's North Shore, many of whom escape the heat of the city on newly popular streetcars. The beaches are also a common place to watch the 4th of July fireworks, since you can see 3 sets of fireworks: Salem, Beverly, and Marblehead. The Willows also has a famous popcorn stand, Hobbs, which is known around the North Shore as one of the best places to get popcorn and ice cream. In 1855, located on 210 Essex Street, was founded the Salem 5-Cents Bank, one of the oldest still functioning American banks. The House of the Seven Gables. Gallows Hill Park. Popular legend places the execution of the Salem witches near this site. The Pickman House, built circa 1664, believed to be Salem's oldest surviving building. The Gagne House on High Street. Salem Common Bench Shell in 2005. Hamilton Hall, 9 Chestnut Street. Perce Nichols House, 80 Federal Street. Phillips House, 34 Chestnut Street. John Ward House. Frank Weston Benson. Nathaniel Bowditch. Elias Haskett Derby. John N. Deckett. Nathaniel Hawthorne. Frederick W. Lander. Charles Grafton Page. Timothy Pickering. Sarah Parker Raymond. Samuel Mcintyre, circa 1786, pastel portrait attributed to Benjamin Blythe. Jack Welch, an American business executive, author, and chemical engineer. He was chairman and CEO of General Electric between 1981 and 2001. Coordinates: 42 degrees 3101 and 70 degrees 5355 W, 42.516845 degrees north, 70.898503 degrees west, 42.516845, minus 70.898503, minus 70.898503, minus 70.898503, minus 70.898503, minus 70.898503, minus 70.898503.